The dawn of spiritual awakening. Imagine a moment when everything you once considered permanent begins to change. The routines you follow without question, the relationships you thought were unshakable, the beliefs that shaped your identity. Suddenly they start to feel fragile, as though the ground beneath your feet is shifting. You may not see anything unusual with your eyes, but deep inside, something is stirring. This stirring is not ordinary restlessness. It feels like a call, an invisible pull towards something greater than yourself. You realize that the life you've been living, with all its patterns and expectations, is only a small fragment of what you are meant to experience. This is the beginning of what many call a spiritual awakening. Spiritual awakening is not about religion, rituals, or belonging to a particular tradition. It is the moment when your soul starts to remember its true nature. It's like waking from a dream and realizing that there is a deeper reality waiting for you, one that cannot be captured by material success, social approval, or external achievements. But make no mistake, awakening is not always easy. It is both beautiful and terrifying. Beautiful, because it reveals truth, authenticity, and freedom. Terrifying, because it asks you to let go of the illusions and attachments that once gave you a false sense of security. Every person who goes through this journey begins to notice changes in their priorities, their mindset, and their relationships. Certain things that once seemed essential now feel unnecessary. Certain fears that once controlled them begin to dissolve. In this script, we will explore 6 major things that people gradually quit as they awaken spiritually. These are not just habits or surface-level changes. They are deep transformations of the soul. They represent a shedding of old skins, so that the true self can shine through. Let's begin with the first great shift, learning to release the endless need for external validation. 1. Quitting the need for external validation. From the very beginning of our lives, we are conditioned to seek approval. As children, we want the praise of our parents. In school, we long for recognition from teachers and peers. As adults, this search for validation takes new forms, likes on social media, compliment from colleagues, acceptance from society. It is no wonder that so many of us tie our self-worth to the opinions of others. We are told directly or indirectly that we are only good enough if someone else agrees. And so we spend years, sometimes decades, chasing after external signs of approval while forgetting to look inward. But when the journey of spiritual awakening begins, a shift happens. Slowly, you start to recognize that true worth cannot come from outside of you. The comments on your photos, the number of followers you have, the praise you receive from your boss. These things are temporary and unstable. They may lift you up for a moment, but they can just as easily disappear, leaving you empty again. Spiritual growth teaches you that relying on external validation is like building your home on sand. It may stand for a while, but eventually it will collapse. Instead, you begin to discover a deeper truth. The only validation that truly matters is your own. You realize that the opinions of others are not accurate mirrors of your value. They are simply reflections of their own experiences, beliefs, and limitations. What someone thinks about you often has more to do with their inner world than with your reality. As this realization deepens, you begin to quit the need to be liked by everyone. You stop bending yourself into shapes just to fit in. You let go of the exhausting game of trying to impress. And in that freedom, something miraculous happens. You start to feel peace. True self-worth arises not when everyone around you approves of you, but when you can look in a mirror and say, I am enough, just as I am. Of course, this doesn't happen overnight. The habit of chasing approval is deeply ingrained. But slowly, as your awareness expands, you notice when you're falling into that trap. You catch yourself before you compromise your truth just to gain acceptance. You begin to choose authenticity over approval, a story to reflect on. Imagine a young artist who loves painting. In the beginning, she paints from her heart, losing herself in colors and creativity. But soon, she starts posting her work online. At first, the likes and compliments motivate her. But gradually, she notices a shift. She no longer paints for joy, but to please her audience. If a painting doesn't get enough attention, she feels like a failure. One day, during a moment of deep reflection, she realizes that she's become a prisoner of external validation. Her art no longer feels authentic. With courage, she decides to stop chasing likes and to paint again for herself, for the sheer joy of creation. In that moment, her true artistic spirit awakens. This is what spiritual awakening does. It reminds us that our worth and our gifts are not defined by applause. They are valuable simply because they are expressions of our soul, letting go of material attachments. In modern society, success is often measured by possessions. The size of your house, the model of your car, the brand of your clothes. These things are seen as symbols of achievement. We live in a world that constantly whispers, the more you have, the more you are. And so, many of us grow up chasing material abundance, believing that happiness lies in accumulation. We collect, we hoard, and we compare ourselves to others. If they have more, we feel smaller. If we have more, we feel superior. The cycle never ends. But during a spiritual awakening, something remarkable happens. You begin to see through the illusion. Slowly, you realize that material possessions, though useful and enjoyable, are temporary. They can be lost, broken, stolen, or outdated. They cannot provide lasting fulfillment because their nature is impermanent. The shift in perspective, when your consciousness expands, you begin to notice that the joy of owning something new quickly fades. A brand new phone may excite you for a few days, but soon becomes ordinary. A bigger house may give you pride, but after some time, it feels normal again. The thrill of more is always followed by emptiness, which leads you to chase the next thing. This endless cycle of desire is like drinking salty water. The more you drink, the thirstier you become. Awakening breaks this pattern by showing you that true abundance is not measured by what you own, but by what you are inside. You begin to treasure experiences over objects, a meaningful conversation, a quiet walk in nature, the laughter of a loved one. These things bring a depth of joy that money cannot buy. You discover that richness comes from connection, creativity, peace, and love, not from endless accumulation. Simplicity as freedom. Letting go of material attachment does not mean you must renounce everything or live in poverty. Spiritual awakening does not demand that you throw away your belongings. Instead, it invites you to detach from the belief that those belongings define your identity. You start to declutter your life, both physically and mentally. You realize that you don't need to own 10 pairs of shoes to feel complete. You don't need the latest gadget to feel valuable. The less clutter you carry, the more space you create for peace and clarity. Simplicity becomes freedom. You no longer feel enslaved by the pressure to constantly acquire. You no longer measure your worth by comparison. Instead, you cultivate gratitude for what you already have. An example of liberation. There's a story of a wealthy merchant who lived in a grand mansion filled with treasures. Every night, he locked his doors and worried about thieves. Every day, he worked hard to protect and expand his wealth. Though he had everything, he felt restless and anxious. One day, while traveling, he met a monk who carried only a small bowl and a blanket. The monk looked peaceful and radiant, while the merchant looked exhausted. Curious, the merchant asked, "How can you be so happy with so little?" The monk replied, "I may have little, but nothing owns me. You have everything, but your possessions have chained you. True freedom is not in keeping wealth safe, but in keeping the heart light." This story reflects the wisdom of letting go. You don't need to give up all material things. You simply need to release the chains they put on your mind. Living in the present. When you are less attached to material possessions, you naturally start to live more in the present. You are no longer constantly planning what to buy next or worrying about losing what you already have. Instead, you immerse yourself in the simple joys of the moment. The sound of birds, the warmth of sunlight, the taste of food, the presence of people you love. The present moment becomes richer than any object you could own. The balance between having and being. Spiritual awakening doesn't ask you to reject the material world. After all, food, shelter, and comfort are part of life. What it asks is balance, to enjoy material things without becoming enslaved by them. You may still drive a car, wear nice clothes, or live in a beautiful home, but you no longer cling to them as sources of identity. If they are gone tomorrow, you remain whole because your essence is untouched. This shift transforms the way you interact with the world. You begin to value experiences, relationships, and inner peace above status symbols. You realize that joy is not found in having, but in being, releasing the need for control. From childhood, many of us are taught that if we want to succeed, we must take control. We must plan every detail, predict every outcome, and fight against uncertainty. Society glorifies the idea of being in control, the master of one's destiny, the architect of one's future. And so, we grow up believing that if we can just control everything, our jobs, our relationships, our future, then life will be safe and predictable. But sooner or later, reality shows us otherwise. Plans fail. Unexpected events shake our stability. People change. Life refuses to fit into the neat little boxes we create for it. This realization can feel terrifying at first, but during a spiritual awakening, it becomes a profound gift. The understanding that control is illusion. Why we cling to control. The need for control often comes from fear. Fear of the unknown. Fear of failure. Fear of chaos. Our minds believe that if we can plan and manage every detail, we can avoid suffering. But in truth, the tighter we grip, the more resistance we create. Think of a river. When we try to control the flow of water, we build dams and barriers. But eventually, the water overflows, breaks through, or changes course. Life is much the same. The more we resist its natural flow, the more stress and frustration we experience. The awakening shift. When you begin to awaken spiritually, you start to trust the natural rhythm of life. You recognize that while you can set intentions and take action, you cannot control outcomes. And that's okay, because life is a way of guiding you exactly where you need to be, even if it doesn't match your original plans. This shift is not about becoming passive or indifferent. It is about surrender, not in weakness, but in wisdom. You learn to move with the flow instead of against it. You plant seeds, but you trust the timing of their growth. You steer your boat, but you let the river carry you forward. A story of letting go. There was once a sailor who tried to fight against a powerful storm. He tightened every rope, pulled against the winds, and forced his ship against the current. Exhausted and defeated, he nearly sank. Then an old fisherman told him, "You cannot command the storm, but you can adjust your sails. Let the wind carry you, and it will take you where you need to go." The sailor listened, and by surrendering, he survived. This story reflects the wisdom of life. We cannot control every storm, but we can choose how we respond. We can adjust our sails and trust the greater currents that guide us. Practical shifts in daily life. As you release the need for control, subtle but powerful changes happen in your life. You stop obsessing over the future. Instead of trying to plan every detail, you focus on doing your best in the present moment. You accept uncertainty as part of growth. Instead of fearing the unknown, you begin to see it as a space of possibility. You let go of rigid expectations. Instead of being crushed when things don't go your way, you remain open to new paths. You cultivate trust. Trust in yourself. Trust in life. Trust in the greater intelligence of the universe. The freedom of surrender. When you finally let go of control, something magical happens. You feel lighter. The endless burden of trying to manage everything falls away. Instead of fighting against life, you begin to dance with it. You discover that the universe often has plans greater than your own. What looked like failure becomes redirection. What seemed like loss becomes transformation. And in the midst of uncertainty, you find peace, because you know that you don't have to carry the weight of controlling everything. Abandoning toxic relationships. One of the most difficult but powerful transformations that occur during a spiritual awakening is the reevaluation of relationships. Human beings are deeply social creatures. We thrive on connection, companionship, and community. From family to friends to colleagues, our bonds shape who we are. But not all relationships are healthy. Some connections uplift us, while others drain us. Some encourage our growth, while others keep us stuck in cycles of pain. And often, we hold on to toxic relationships out of fear, obligation, or habit. A spiritual awakening shines light on these patterns. As your awareness deepens, you begin to recognize the relationships that no longer serve your highest good. Recognizing toxicity. Toxic relationships are not always obvious. They don't always involve open hostility or abuse. Sometimes they show up in subtle ways. A friend who constantly criticizes or belittles you. A partner who discourages your dreams because of their own insecurity. A family member who manipulates you with guilt or shame. A colleague who thrives on competition and envy. At first, you may tolerate these behaviors because you fear conflict or because you've been conditioned to believe that's just how they are. But as you awaken, your sensitivity increases. You feel the weight of these dynamics more deeply, and you begin to realize that your energy is too precious to be drained by negativity. The courage to let go. Letting go of toxic relationships is not easy. It can feel painful, especially when it involves people you have known for years. You may worry about being alone, judged, or misunderstood, but deep down, you know that holding on to these connections keeps you from becoming your best self. Awakening teaches you that love should not come at the cost of your peace. Real relationships do not demand that you shrink, betray your truth, or constantly suffer. True love, whether in friendship, romance, or family, uplifts, supports, and nurtures. With this realization, you begin to slowly distance yourself from those who bring harm, even if it hurts at first. You stop watering dead plants, and you invest your energy where it can actually grow, the space for new connections. When you let go of toxic relationships, you create space for something better. It's like clearing out a garden full of weeds. The soil becomes ready for new seeds to be planted. Suddenly, you find yourself meeting people who resonate with your authentic self. These are individuals who celebrate your growth, respect your boundaries, and share your values. They challenge you to rise higher, not drag you down. And you realize something profound. You are not losing, you are gaining. By releasing what no longer serves you, you are making room for relationships that align with your soul. A reflection story. There was once a woman who carried a heavy bag wherever she went. Inside were stones she had collected over the years. Stones given to her by friends, family, and acquaintances. Some stones were light, but many were heavy and sharp. They cut into her shoulders and slowed her steps. One day, during a moment of clarity, she asked herself, "Why am I carrying these stones?" She realized that some of them didn't even belong to her. They were burdens placed by others. With trembling hands, she began to empty the bag, placing the heaviest stones on the ground. As the weight lifted, she felt lighter, freer, and more alive than ever before. This is what it feels like to release toxic relationships. The burden is heavy, but once you let go, you step into freedom, choosing your circle wisely. Awakening reminds you that you become like the people you spend the most time with. Energy is contagious. Spend time with negativity, and you absorb it. Spend time with joy, and you radiate it. So, you begin to choose your circle wisely. You surround yourself with those who encourage your dreams, inspire your growth, and walk alongside you with authenticity. You learn to say no to relationships that pull you down and yes to those that lift you higher. In doing so, you realize that love is not about quantity but quality. A few genuine souls who understand and support you are worth more than 100 shallow connections. Living authentically, ceasing to compromise your true self. One of the most liberating stages of spiritual awakening is the discovery of authenticity, living as your true self, without masks, without fear, and without compromise. From the time we are young, society trains us to play roles. We are told how to behave, what to believe, and how to fit in. To please others, we wear masks, pretending to be who we think we should be, rather than who we truly are. At first, these masks feel safe. They protect us from judgment, rejection, or conflict. But over time, they suffocate us. Deep down, the soul longs for freedom, for the chance to shine in its unique light. Spiritual awakening is the moment when those masks begin to crack. You realize that pretending to be someone else is far more painful than the risk of being real. The price of compromise. Compromising your authentic self often brings temporary comfort, but long-term emptiness. You might gain approval, but lose your peace. You might win acceptance, but betray your own truth. For example, a person who dreams of becoming a writer might suppress their passion because their family expects them to choose a stable career. A man who loves kindness and creativity might act tough to match society's idea of masculinity. A woman who values independence may shrink herself to fit into traditional roles. In each case, the soul suffers because authenticity is sacrificed. The awakening shift. When you awaken, you begin to quit the habit of compromise. You realize that no amount of approval is worth the cost of betraying your soul. You start to embrace your quirks, your flaws, and your unique qualities. Instead of asking, will they accept me? You ask, am I being true to myself? Living authentically does not mean you become reckless or insensitive. It means you stop hiding the essence of who you are. You speak your truth with love. You honor your values, even when they're different from others. You let your actions reflect your deepest beliefs. A story of courage. There was once a musician who loved creating soft, soulful songs, but his managers insisted that he produce loud, trendy music to gain fame. For years, he compromised, chasing popularity. Yet, no matter how successful he became, he felt hollow. One day, he could no longer bear the weight of dishonesty. He left the spotlight and began singing the songs of his heart. Though his audience was smaller, he felt fulfilled for the first time. And slowly, people who resonated with his truth found him, and this time, the connection was real. This story reminds us that authenticity attracts the right people and opportunities. When you live in alignment with your soul, you may lose some approval, but you gain freedom, peace, and joy. The power of alignment. Authentic living transforms every part of your life. In work, you choose careers or projects that reflect your passions, not just your paycheck. In relationships, you form bonds based on honesty, not pretense. In self-expression, you share your ideas, art, and voice without fear of judgment. In inner peace, you stop the exhausting game of trying to be someone else. And most importantly, you realize that you are enough as you are. The approval you once sought outside begins to bloom from within, releasing the fear of death. Few fears are as universal as the fear of death. From childhood, we are taught to see death as the ultimate end, something dark, final, and terrifying. It represents the unknown, and the unknown often fills us with dread. We cling to life desperately, not only because we love it, but because we are afraid of what comes after. This fear quietly shapes many of our choices. The urge to control, the rush to achieve, the constant anxiety about time slipping away. But during a spiritual awakening, something extraordinary happens. The fear of death begins to dissolve. Why do we fear death? The fear of death is rooted in identification. We believe we are this body, this mind, this name, this story. And if the body ends, the story must end too. We imagine death as a great eraser, wiping away everything we know. Yet deep inside, the soul whispers that this is not the full truth. We sense that there is more, that we are more. Awakening brings a new perspective. As awareness expands, you begin to understand death not as an end, but as a transition. Just as night follows day and seasons follow one another, death is part of the natural rhythm of existence. You realize that the soul, the true essence of who you are, is not bound by the physical body. The body is like a garment, temporary and fragile. The soul is the wearer, eternal and unbroken. When this truth settles in your heart, the fear of death begins to lose its power. A candle's lesson. Imagine a candle burning brightly in a dark room. After some time, the flame goes out. To the unknowing eye, it looks like the light has vanished. But in truth, the flame has not died. It has simply returned to the air, merging with the invisible fire of existence. This is what happens to the soul. Death is not the destruction of light. It is a return to the infinite, living fully without fear. When you no longer fear death, life itself transforms. Instead of rushing through days and anxiety, you begin to savor each moment. You realize that everything is temporary, your youth, your possessions, even your relationships. But instead of causing sadness, this realization awakens gratitude. You start to see beauty in impermanence. The falling leaf, the fading sunset, the wrinkles on a loved one's face, all remind you of the fleeting but precious nature of life. Without the fear of death, you are free to live with courage. You stop postponing your dreams. You stop clinging to the past. You embrace the present as the gift it truly is, the peace of acceptance. Death, once a terrifying shadow, becomes a gentle teacher. It reminds you not to waste your days on trivial pursuits. It invites you to live authentically, to love deeply, to forgive quickly, and to cherish every breath. You realize that when the time comes, death is simply the doorway to another chapter of the soul's eternal journey. And because of this, you no longer live in fear. You live in trust. The journey of awakening, a closing reflection. We began this journey by imagining the first stirrings of awakening, that subtle feeling that life is shifting beneath the surface. We followed the path through 6 profound transformations, each one peeling away illusions and leading us closer to truth. We saw how the endless chase for external validation begins to fade, replaced by the discovery of inner worth. We learned how attachment to material possessions loosens its grip, making room for simplicity, gratitude, and peace. We discovered the freedom in releasing the illusion of control, surrendering to the natural flow of life. We explored the courage it takes to abandon toxic relationships, creating space for connections that truly uplift the soul. We embraced the power of living authentically, shedding masks and choosing to honor our true self. And finally, we confronted the great fear of humanity, the fear of death, and saw how awakening transforms it into peace, trust, and appreciation for life, the thread that connects them all. At the heart of these transformations is one simple truth. You are more than you think you are. You are not defined by others' opinions. You are not reduced to your possessions. You are not trapped by control, nor chained to toxic bonds. You are not meant to live behind masks, nor to tremble before death. You are a soul, timeless, radiant, and free. Spiritual awakening is simply the process of remembering this truth, the process of letting go. Notice that each stage of awakening involves letting go of needing approval, letting go of material attachments, letting go of control, letting go of unhealthy ties, letting go of false identities, letting go of fear itself. This letting go may feel like loss at first, but as each layer falls away, you discover it is not loss, it is liberation. You are not becoming less, you are becoming more. Like a butterfly shedding its cocoon, you are revealing the wings that were always meant to carry you, walking your path. The journey of awakening is not the same for everyone. Some take sudden leaps, while others walk slowly and gently. Some face storms that shake their foundation, while others feel quiet whispers guiding them. There is no right or wrong way to awaken. There is only your way. Wherever you are, trust that you are exactly where you need to be. The lessons will come at the right time. The shifts will unfold at the right pace, and the path will reveal itself step by step. Living with awareness. What matters most is awareness. By simply noticing your habits, your attachments, your fears, you are already awakening. Awareness itself is the seed of transformation. So carry these truths with you. Your worth comes from within. Joy is found in being, not having. Life flows more easily when you release control. You deserve relationships that honor your soul. Authenticity is freedom. Death is not an end, but a doorway, a final invitation. As you reflect on these 6 shifts, ask yourself, which one is speaking to me the most right now? Maybe you are struggling with seeking validation, or perhaps you are holding on to a toxic bond. Maybe fear of the future still weighs heavy on your heart. Wherever you are, start there. Small steps, taken with sincerity, will lead you forward. Remember, awakening is not about becoming someone new. It is about remembering who you already are. As we reach the end of this journey, take a deep breath and let everything you just heard settle within you. These 6 shifts of awakening, letting go of external validation, loosening material attachments, releasing the illusion of control, stepping away from toxic relationships, living authentically, and releasing the fear of death, are not simply ideas. They are invitations. Invitations to live lighter. Invitations to live freer. Invitations to live closer to the truth of who you are. If even one of these messages spoke to you, then something within you is already awakening. Perhaps you recognize your own struggle and the need for approval, or maybe you felt the weight of toxic ties that you know you need to release. Maybe you were reminded that simplicity can bring joy, or perhaps the thought of living authentically stirred something powerful in your heart. Wherever you are right now, honor that. This is your unique journey, and every step, no matter how small, is a step in the right direction. Remember, awakening is not a sudden finish line you must cross. It is a lifelong unfolding. Some days will feel clear, radiant, and inspiring. Other days may feel heavy, confusing, or uncertain. But both are part of the path. Both are part of your growth. And through it all, you are guided. As you move forward, hold on to these truths. You are worthy, not because of what others think of you, but because of the light that already exists within you. You are free, not when you own everything, but when nothing owns you. You are powerful not by controlling life, but by trusting its flow. You are loved, and you deserve relationships that remind you of your worth. You are whole when you dare to live as your true self. And you are eternal, for death cannot touch the soul. These are not just teachings. They are reminders what you already know, deep within your heart. So as you return to your daily life, carry these lessons with you. Let them guide your choices, your conversations, and your reflections. Notice where you can let go. Notice where you can surrender, and notice where you can step into your truth more boldly. And if this message resonated with you, know that you are not walking this path alone. There are countless others, just like you, who are awakening, growing, and discovering their deeper purpose. Together, we form a community of souls learning to live with more awareness and more love. If you found value here, I invite you to share this video with someone who may also need these reminders. Leave your reflections in the comments. What part of this journey spoke to you the most? And if you'd like to continue exploring, learning, and growing, don't forget to subscribe and stay connected. This is not the end, my friend. It is only the beginning of a new way of seeing, of living, of being. Your awakening is already here. Trust it, embrace it, and let it carry you into the life your soul has always known was possible.